Just remember that Pop Culture Minefield, when it's discussing rumors, are just rumors. You have to take them with a grain of salt.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment, as we love to hear back from our viewers. Also, if you enjoy our videos, please consider becoming a patron of our show through Patreon and or GoFundMe. Links are listed below the video in the description. From the deepest, darkest recesses of Dangerous Nerds headquarters, Keith Moncrief and Gerry Kissell.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pop Culture Minefield. That's Keith.
And that's Gerry.
And we are here to talk about some nerdy nerd stuff. And some stuff dropped down today, big stuff, all involving DC Comics. Number one story is, of course, the reveal of more Batman stuff, which we got to see the stunt performer wearing his stunt costume, and with the mask, we got to see the horns on the the bat ears, and a lot of people, the internet's gone nuts over it. It is literally split right down the middle. People loving it and people hating it, and I'm saying, that's just the stuntman wearing the costume. That's not how it's going to look on the main character. It will look a little different. But,
yeah,
people want to talk. And I heard one guy on my page today comment that the motorcycle itself looked stupid AF. And I'm like, it looks like a motorcycle with the windshield taken off the front of it, so it makes it look like it's got bat ears. Because it's got the scoop on it where normally a windshield would go, or windscreen. Windscreen. So they took the windscreen out, makes it look like it's got pointy ears. It's not fancy. This is all, as we talked about. It's what the costume would look like if a single guy had to do this at in his apartment or mansion, hiding in his room so nobody else sees. This is the Batman costume without Lucius Fox. So there you go. What do you think, buddy?
I agree with you. It looks good. Watching the video, it definitely looks different than what he was wearing in the initial video that was dropped a few days back. So obviously there's going to be an evolution in what he's wearing, which is good. I just like to see all of this stuff once we get the first trailer. So I mean, now that I've seen what he's wearing, now at least what the stunt guy is wearing, I want to see how it all looks.
Because it's going to be a good facsimile. Yeah, but we don't even know if he's going to have a cape. And so I'm wondering at this point, because he's riding around on his motorcycle without a cape on, are we going to do the same thing they did with Justice League and Man of Steel and making the cape digital? So I don't know. We'll see. Until then, we're just guessing. Take everything with a grain of salt. So... But the fact is I kind of liked what I saw. My problem with the cowl is the cheeks are, the forehead sticks out further than the cheeks. So it looks kind of like, I don't know, it looks weird. Like the best angle is where they shot from a 3/4 high angle down on the mask. It'll look good there. But when you shoot at some angles, it makes it look like the cheeks are sunken in it. It looks weird. But we got to see the trailer. We have to see it on our hero in action and see how it looks then, and then we will determine. But the internet's losing its mind. People are like, "We're never going to get a comic book version of Batman. It's always going to be this real world looking Batman." Well, ever since Tim Burton's Batman, they've been trying to do that. That's why when you get a live action movie, you're going to get that. You saw what happened when you get a cartoony Batman. It got stupid. Yeah, it made its money, but it was stupid and not enjoyable. The enjoyable Batmans have always been the ones that tried their best to be as realistic as possible. But
Yeah.
the big question is, does magic and superpowers exist in this Batman world that we're going to see? Or is this going to be like the Joker, where it's just a very gritty, real world type story? Yeah, we'll find
I think
out.
it's going to, I really do think it's going to depend on, first, what they're going, what J.J. Abrams is going to be heading up, what he wants to take on, what he wants to do.
Oh, you mean it was
I
Superman?
think everything. No. Superman's just the beginning. J.J. Abrams' job is to take over.
Oh, he's going to be the new
film.
Kevin Feige for DC. Oh,
well,
boy.
We'll see. We'll see if he lasts that long. The thing about it is that some of these properties are currently occupied, so he's not going to have access to everything.
No.
Now,
thank goodness.
The thing about it is, his initial contract is for 5 years. So basically, he's got some time before he'll be able to get his hands on at least Batman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman to be able to build up everything. But that still leaves the Flash, Green Lantern, and a couple of other heroes here and there. And I don't know. Again, after the bang-up job that he's done with Star Trek and Star Wars, God, I hope Warner Brothers and DC fans are ready for this, because he's left both of those other properties pretty much
in shambles. He's in great shape.
Word.
He's in great shape, but in his boat's wake, there's a lot of damage behind him. So, yeah. Wow, never ever expected that from JJ. That was a big shock, because I had high hopes for him because he was such a nerd, and
well, but everything's become about franchises, which is just another way of saying a way of becoming rich off of other people's IP.
Yep.
And the thing that's going on right now with his mini-me.
Are you talking about Alex Kurtzman? Oh, yeah.
Yes. Kurtzman wants the same thing. You can make a lot of money really quick by jumping into one of these and becoming their head guy for just a few years, and seeing what you can do.
Yeah, walk away with a great payday, but you left the place in shambles.
That's pretty much it. And again, I think everything currently going on, as far as DC, Star Wars, Star Trek, and others, is pretty much just the result of that. And to a certain extent, I don't even know if Marvel will be spared this, considering that I was just reminded that next year is 2021, which is the year that we'll see some changes at Disney. So no matter what, Bob Iger's leaving next year. So there is going to be a lot of jockeying around to see who's going to be running this entire thing. And given all of the recent announcements about Kevin Feige, we now pretty much know that Feige will not be in charge of Disney, which to me would have been the ultimate great thing for him to do, which also would have protected Marvel. So I'm just hoping that a lot of the other things that I've heard and some of my theories are not correct, that we could be looking at someone like, I don't know, a certain person named Lachlan taking over the CEO-ship of Disney, which is pretty much, in my opinion, tantamount to J.J. Abrams taking over DC.
Yep.
And that would just be bad all the way around.
It would just be so horrible. It'll not be good. Hey, let's move on to some other DC news. We've
Yeah,
got.
shocking news.
I'm friends with Dan Didio on Facebook. I've talked to him a few times over the years. You know, he's always been a really nice guy to me. I've never worked for him, but I've seen some rejoicing on the part of some of my friends that are comic professionals who work for DC that he's leaving, and it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of a bit of a surprise, but I think I understand the sentiment. You know that DC's been kind of a wreck. They were taking on people that were being fired from Marvel, and it's like, why are you hiring somebody that just got fired from Marvel for
Yeah.
causing problems? You know, because it's all about sales and your investors' dollars, right? But that's the
Well,
problem we've seen, and I think that I don't know. Uh, I've never seen Dan Didio's make bad work, but a lot of bad stuff has happened while he's been in charge.
yeah. And as I think we were saying before we started recording, in my opinion, some of it is due to decisions that he's made. But I think within that same amount of time, you also have to understand that I think the corporate structure of Warner Brothers has played a part in some of those decisions. Look, it is safe to say that both DC Comics and Marvel Comics are not really seen as being integral to both of these companies, meaning Warner Brothers and Disney. This is not at the top of their, I'm really sweating about this stuff as far as the publishing of the comics. They love the IP. They love what it
Problems, you know, because it's all about sales and your investors' dollars, right? But that's the
well,
problem we've seen, and I think that I don't know. I've never seen Dan Didio's make bad work, but a lot of bad stuff has happened while he's been in charge.
yeah. And as I think we were saying before we started recording, in my opinion, some of it is due to decisions that he's made. But I think within that same amount of time, you also have to understand that I think the corporate structure of Warner Brothers has played a part in some of those decisions. Look, it is safe to say that both DC Comics and Marvel Comics are not really seen as being integral to both of these companies, meaning Warner Brothers and Disney. This is not at the top of their, I'm really sweating about this stuff as far as the publishing of the comics. They love the IP. They love what it gives them. They love the movies. They love the television shows. They even like the lifestyle branding. But the actual comic book publishing is not foremost in both their minds. And while many Marvel people would argue, well, you know, we got Kevin Feige, he's going to help oversee the comics. Okay. But if both DC and Marvel decide that actually publishing comics may not be something that they're into within the next few years, that might not mean as much.
Well, who do you think is going to step in to replace him?
That's the thing. I don't know. It's going to depend on whoever the head person from Warner Brothers is who's over that entire department.
Well, you know that it's AT&T, you know, so they're...
Well, no, I mean, there's an immediate head. In other words, there is a boss directly over DC Comics. Okay.
Because I know that Jim Lee's not going to come back, and you know...
Well, Jim Lee, as of right now, and according to the article that was printed, you know, stating that Dan Didio was out, that makes Jim Lee the sole publisher at this point.
Yeah, but I don't see him doing the day-to-day operations yet, doing what Dan Didio is doing.
All I know is he is the sole guy.
He is like the slowest working dude. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, basically, we could have seen the last of him doing artwork. is really what it comes
Well, it's
down
because
to.
he's slow.
Now,
He takes forever to get
but
anything
but
done.
but I will say this: there is someone who is directly over that in the immediate aftermath of what happened with Justice League. DC Comics was actually a part of DC Entertainment, which was a whole complex that they had built on the Warner Brothers lot.
Right.
That no longer exists.
Right. Yeah.
They got rid of all of that. And so DC Comics, in the aftermath, while DC Television went to Warner Brothers Television and DC Films went to Warner Brothers Films, everything else was stuck under a particular area within Warner Brothers. And it was part of the VP marketing and lifestyle branding, and DC Comics was stuck right in there.
Right.
And from what I'm hearing, Marvel's kind of sort of done the same thing. They, you just didn't hear anything about it. Marvel's really good. Since joining up with Disney, Marvel's pretty much been like that quiet mouse as far as Marvel Comics. It's been that quiet mouse that business-wise you haven't heard anything. They have been very good at shutting a lot of that stuff down.
Well, because I sent you the link before we started recording that Ethan Van Sciver, who, he's telling, who is this, Cosmic Book News, that AT&T is going to be closing DC Comics if 5G fails.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Again, AT&T is looking at the big money-making stuff, and that's television and films. So, and since comic books overall have not been selling that well these last couple of years,
right.
And since since the two major companies have been kind of experimenting with cutting costs and finding other ways to publish their books outside of them doing it themselves. The moment I found that out, that pretty much in my mind signified that we are on the major downside as far as the future of comic books when it comes to DC and Marvel.
Yeah, because let me quote you. I want to read this to you. This is what Van Sciver said today in his interview. Understand, it doesn't mean the characters are going to go anywhere. Batman, of course, is a prized possession of AT&T right now. AT&T is Batman, and they're going to keep putting out movies and product and toys and all that stuff. Comic books are dead, and they're going to close up the publishing house. I'll tell you that a professional who I spoke with recently said, quote, within a quote, yeah, I was talking to one of the higher-ups at DC Comics who said that if 5G doesn't work out, that's it. AT&T is closing the publishing arm. That's it, the whole ball game. And that's an interesting quote. And you and I,
and again,
we've already heard rumblings about this too, that they were considering closing the comic book publishing.
But as I've been saying, is no matter what you hear with DC, Marvel is not that far behind. Okay, they are not that far behind.
Well, you remember a year ago they cleared the house, and we all thought, we all hoped, crossed our fingers that they would straighten the ship, but we still got the same stupid shit going on at Marvel, and DC hiring people that were quitting and fired from Marvel. That the ones that were quit because they knew they were getting ready to be fired, and I know that for a fact. Because I have my insiders.
Yeah, you do. But again, it gave a false sort of, there's been this sort of false sense of security within the comic book world that as Marvel got rid of people, fired people, those people get picked up by Disney, by DC. DC fires, get rid of people, and some of those people go to Marvel. There's been sort of like this joint dependency sort of false sense of security thing that they've been putting as a major front to everyone else, although people who actually own comic book shops will tell you, this has been coming for a while.
The way to know the health of the comic book industry is how well the stores that sell comic books are doing. And they're closing and they're closing, and some of them are modifying because, you know that one of the biggest stores that deals with comics that we know used to be the Cave, and
Mhm.
I forget the name of it. I went by the shop the other day just to check out what they have here in Joplin, and
Mhm.
not very much comic stuff. A lot of toys, real small comic collection, video
And, and,
games, movies, and music and books. Comic book
and,
area is
and,
this little area.
and I will say this: those that will stay open are ones that are doing one of two things. They're either shrinking their inventory of comics, or some of them are just becoming non-new comic stores, meaning that they only deal with
The
older
old
comics.
stuff, right? And that seems to
And
be
when I say old, I mean stuff that's already
vin-
come out within the last couple of months.
vintage stock is the comic store I'm talking about.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
they, you know, they just their comic selection is like this is their store. This much of it is comic books. The rest of it is other shit. All the other comic book stores that we know and love, most of them are gone now.
Yeah,
And
and
the
and again, this is because when you get the corporate mentality in there, their thing is all about the bottom line.
yep.
If you're not making them money, then the idea in their heads is you're costing them money.
And
And
here's the thing. I'm not going to blame the corporations on this. I'm going to blame these people that the corporations put at the head of these companies and trusted to
yeah,
make them money, who drove the product into the ground with their stupid, overly woke crap. Like comic books weren't diverse enough. They've always been diverse.
yeah,
But they wanted to push it, and they pushed it, and they destroyed a complete industry. And this
hmm
includes the company that I love, IDW. They've done the same stupid shit. G.I. Joe sales have dropped drastically because of the stupid shit they decided to do. And I love IDW. I love everybody there. But I don't know what it is, man. I really don't.
Well, I mean, and again, there's no real burning need from their end to want to change what they're doing, because you've now isolated them directly from what the comic book shops are saying, and from what and thereby also isolating them from fans. People, they have found other ways to sell their product, due to scholastics, due to libraries, due to all these other ways, so they don't really have to listen to the individual fans, to the
Well,
mom and comic book shops anymore.
who is the greatest purchaser of comic books in the United States? I know. It's the public library system.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they're buying, they can still manage to do some work. And IDW, I have a lot of faith in IDW because they put out a lot of good products. They just made some really funky decisions when it comes to G.I. Joe in particular.
Yeah.
Just don't make sense. But the rest of their products, I love IDW. They will always be, I mean, not just because they hired me and I work for them, it's because of the
Yeah.
fact that I really like the products they put out.
Yeah.
They're everything that Fantagraphic wishes they were.
Well, really, the independent comic book publishers really are the only ones that are now officially
The last bastions.
any one of them, uh, including Image for the most part,
Right.
they're all holding the line. And so if you want what comic books were even back in the 90s, your best bet at this point is basically just start supporting all the independent comic book publishers out there, at least as long as they're still around. And again, just cross your fingers. But I will say at this point, DC will probably stop. Disney will probably get around to phasing out a lot of the Marvel stuff. But as I said before we started recording, like DC, they have managed to find other ways of getting their books out there. And Disney is very good at keeping stuff quiet that doesn't really look good. So they can do many of the same things that DC is doing, right? That Warner Brothers is doing to DC. Disney will get around to doing the same thing. You just won't hear about it so much. They'll
Right.
keep it on the down low, but they will do it.
Well,
They'll do it.
Basically, we're done. We've wrapped up the episode, but in closing, the industry is going to survive in one way or another. Even if it's not what we're used to. Some of the heads of these, comic companies have driven it into the ground. The sad part of that is it's going to cost jobs. There are creators that are not going to be able to work anymore, and there are mom and pop shops around the country that have closed over this. These really bad, stupid decisions that were made.
Well, from a lot of the distributors, I'm not mentioning any names, but let's just say a lot of the really dumb stuff that's happened over the last almost 10 years to with the comic book shops and their relationships to how comic
Are you saying Diamond?
I didn't say. I'm not mentioning names.
They're the only distributor.
I'm just not saying names.
They're the main distributor. We can't get sued. We're just an
I
opinion
have talked
show.
to the owners of a lot of comic book shops, and they fall into two different types. The ones that have convinced themselves that nothing's wrong, everything's great, and then the real, the ones that are existing in reality going, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And you have two types in that group. The ones who have gone out of business and the ones who will probably end up out of business by a year from now. So there's a lot of bad stuff happening, and it's not getting any better. So
fascinating stuff, man. Okay. Well, guys, that's the end of the episode. That's Keith.
That's Gary.
And we're out of here. Get off our lawns.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Pop Culture Minefield. If you've enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Remember, you can find us at Pop Culture Minefield on both Facebook and Instagram. Thank you again.
Y'all come back now. You hear?